right, y'all. So I am back. Greetings, everyone. My name is Asia Davis, and I am a second-generation homeschool mom, also a licensed educator. And today we are going to be, of course, continuing the conversation homeschool versus public school. I did have this conversation more of from an academic point of view on Tuesday. And then today I'm actually going to be spinning it a little bit different, and we're going to be talking about what environment is safest for kids, okay? What environment is safest for kids? Is it homeschool or public school? And whichever one you go with, go ahead and tell me why as well. All right, so I'll be speaking, and then, of course, if you would like to come up and join the conversation, I do have an invite button right over there in the corner. So, and of course, I'm this way because I have my baby here, and I'm trying to make sure she's off camera. But anyway, hope everybody's having a great Friday. It has been a week, y'all, for me, between homeschool, wife duties, home duties, all that other stuff. But I'm here. And today we're going to get into this conversation because recently, just in this week, this has been a big issue as far as safety goes. Okay. So that's what we're going to get into today. Okay. So it's going to be a serious conversation about school safety and education choices for parents. Okay, so many of you have seen the heartbreaking story about Jada West. If you have not heard about the Jada West story, my condolences to her family. I'm praying for them as they're grieving. Who was a 12-year-old who passed away days after a fight near a school bus stop in Georgia. Okay, so it's like this shake a lot of parents, not because fights never happened before, but because parents today are asking, is my child safe at school? So tonight we're going to be talking about it. Homeschool versus public school, safety, bullying, what research says about the outcomes, as well as how parents can choose the best environment for their child. All right, so before I even begin, I'm going to go ahead and set a respectful tone. This live is not about attacking teachers or public schools. Teachers work incredibly hard. Public schools educate millions of kids every single year. Public schools educate millions of kids every single year, but parents today are asking more questions about safety, bullying, mental health, and academic quality. And those questions are fair, okay? Even though I come from that kind of, I was in the school system myself, and I understand like how important it is to the public society. However, I feel like a lot of parents feel like that could be their only choice. So I'm actually giving them another avenue on ways they can transition over to homeschool, or even if their child is in public school and they really can't take them out, you can still do things from home that will make an impact on your child. One thing that I hold on to this philosophy is that every parent is a homeschool parent. I'm gonna say that again. Every parent is a homeschool parent. If you teach your child at home, you homeschool, okay? The only difference is the amount of time that you're homeschooling every single day, okay? For some people, it's 4 hours. It's right after work. For other people, it's 24/7, right? Us people that decide to do like the traditional homeschool, we're with our kids all day, every day, right? But parenting and educating our children does not have to stop at the school. You are continually, if you're a parent, if you're teaching them how to be kind, how to have manners, if you are a person of faith, how to adhere to biblical principles, etc., you're a homeschool parent. These things happen at home, all right? And it was just recently, like I've said in the previous live, it's only been recently that definition has changed, okay? So public school is a very new nuance, and it hasn't been around for very long compared to the traditional way of educating children, right, in past years in society, Western society, all over the world, etc. So it's just something to think about. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so first let's go ahead and get into what happened to Jada West and what the whole situation is. If you did not hear about it, you can go on TikTok and actually listen to different spiels on it. Me personally, I'm going to come at it from a different lens or a different perspective, I think, from what other people have been saying. But let me go ahead and just give you guys just the facts and then just what I think about the whole situation and how that relates to our question, homeschool or public school. So from the report that's come out so far, remember, this is all alleged. Jada West was a 12-year-old middle school student in Georgia. She was involved in a fight with another student near a bus stop, collapsed afterward, and later died after suffering severe medical complications. Okay, authorities are still investigating, so everything has not fully come out, but this all happened in the beginning of this week. But the story has sparked a national conversation about bullying, student conflicts, supervision after school, and how schools handle safety. All right, so I'm going to say this before I even get into my actual thoughts. No one's going to take care of your child like you are. That's number one. No one's ever going to take care of your child like you are. Now, when I was looking through this Jada West situation online through like news reports and TikTok spiels and like different types of news data points and stuff like that, I did notice one thing that was coming up, and it was just like, why didn't the bus driver get off the bus? Everybody kept saying that. Why didn't the bus driver get off the bus? It's the school's responsibility. But guys, first of all, okay, so basically, let me make sure I give you guys the context before I even state it. So Jada got off the bus, right? And she was stating, hey, these people are bullying me, da da da. And she was basically saying in a nutshell, as she was getting off the bus, I don't know why these other people getting off the bus is not their stop, but if she wants to fight, she can fight, where it can be. Because I guess the girl that she was obviously having a disagreement with, that's the person that wanted to fight her, etc., and back and forth. So when she got off the bus, a bunch of other kids got off the bus. Now a lot of people are like, oh, why did the bus driver not stop and make all those kids get back on the bus? Well, it depends on the policy. I actually have a few people that actually work for the school system and the bus system. And if a child gets off the bus, especially when you have other children on the bus, you just have to pick your battles at that point. Especially you have to think quickly. There's a policy. The bus drivers that I have spoken to was said, okay, if it was me, I would have probably called to the school or whatever the case may be and said, hey, I have a situation. A bunch of kids just got off a stop that they're not supposed to get off of. I'm just letting y'all know. These are middle school students. So I've even been a part of something where elementary school students are getting off the bus. You know what I'm saying? They're just like, I'm gonna do what I want. They have that kind of attitude. So it's like, especially if you can kind of tell in a way, like the way just the whole video was and so forth, you can kind of tell some of them are kind of like, I'm gonna do what I want to do anyway. So if you have those type of people, if you're a bus driver and the kids, hold on, y'all. Nope, there's no more crackers. You're gonna have to wait. Have a seat. Yes. But they're not gonna listen. These kids are not listening. All right. If you're not their parent, I don't even think that they even listen to the parent. If they don't really respect authority, if a bus driver is saying, hey, sit down, hey, get back on the bus, and they're just gonna do what they want to do and get off the bus, most of them are gonna drive on by and go ahead and finish their route. You know what I'm saying? So in that case, and then plus, how are they supposed to know down the line that this is gonna end up with the fatality? Kids walk off the bus all the time. These kids nowadays, kids have always been disrespectful. Let's go ahead and not act like kids just became disrespectful this generation or something. Because I know every generation likes to say that about kids. But from a biblical perspective, sin has been in this world for forever, ever since the beginning of time. Okay. And your child, no matter how good of a parent you think you are, the case may be, they have a choice in the matter. They have a choice to sin or they have a choice to obey. Right. And their sin nature is going to be like, yo, I'm going to test the waters a little bit. I'm going to do what I want to do until you discipline them, until you say, hey, no, that's not the way you're supposed to go. You're supposed to go this way, not that way, right? So you have to be able to talk to these kids in a way that they understand. And a lot of times, especially being a bus driver, first of all, in the United States, we need some bus monitors. That's number one. I don't even know why. Obviously, because people don't want to be a bus driver. They don't want to pay them for number one. But bus monitors, I feel like would help so much. I know they have cameras on the bus, but having someone stand on the bus so the bus driver can focus and do their job, because that's a dangerous job. You know how many accidents happen every single day, and then when kids want to act up, they want to stand on the bus, they want to get off on their own stops, or the case may be. It's a whole thing. So I just noticed that people were just coming at the bus driver, and I personally feel like I feel like they were probably just following protocol, because if You have children on the bus and off the bus. What you gonna do? You gonna leave a bunch? You gonna leave a bunch of kids on the bus? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. So it just depends. It just all depends. Now, going back to the situation right here, she was saying that she was dealing with bullying, right? So if she was dealing with bullying on that bus, or bullying on the bus, or bullying in school, I think it was up to the parents to be like, all right, nothing's being done. My child is still dealing with these issues every single day. What can I do to change it around? One thing I would have done, if I feel like nothing's happening, no one's going to care about your child as much as you are. So I would have personally, one, either withdrawn my kids. Yeah, that's drastic. But I mean, if your child's being abused and you can't watch, and you know it's adults are not watching them, then, you know, what's the point, right? So either withdraw your child, maybe even get them off the bus too. If you know this person rides the bus as well, go ahead and take it upon yourself and be like, you know what? I'm just going to have to drop you off and pick you up on the car line or something. You know what I'm saying? Just to cut down on the amount of times that your child has to deal with this perpetrator, right? Until you really get to the nitty gritty and the issues of everything. And be very involved. Be up in their face. Like if your child is really saying, hey, something's going on, or case may be, they need to be seen. They need to be annoyed with you. Like, and then they'll once a school system is tired of seeing you, or they're gonna make sure that you don't, you know what I'm saying, that you don't. Well, one or two things can happen. They could just kind of ignore you, which some schools also do. Like they kind of just be like, oh, she's tripping, da da da. But they will make sure that your child is not in no issues, or the issue is not brought back to you if you are really on them, if you're really on their necks. But how many parents are really on their necks like that? Not that much. Okay. So the bullying thing, you know, you really have to kind of, and you probably have to tell your child, hey, like you got to stand up for them, period. Student conflicts, this is happening all the time. So when I was also listening to the video, it sounded like you could tell the background a little bit. And when I say the background, you can kind of tell either they're being, there's different things that's influencing these kids, right? So I don't know, because kids influence each other, and then the kids, so your child is going to be influenced by one of 5 things. They could be influenced by you. They could be influenced by their peers. They could be influenced by music. They could be influenced by TV. And then last but not least, they could be influenced by technology. All those things, you have to figure out which one your child is being influenced by the most, and make sure that you are the most influential person in your child's life, period. And you can also measure that by time. So if your child is in an 8-hour class, who or what is influencing your child majority of the day, Monday through Friday? Most of the time, people that are in public schools, it's going to be their peers. It's going to be technology, whatever's on that phone, whatever's on the TV, whatever's the music they're listening to. And it's most likely going to be like their teacher in the system they're in, period. I'm talking like the average probably person nowadays, especially who has their child in public school, they might get 20% to 30% of time with their kids. Maybe. And that's if they're really like, as soon as they see their child, they're just with them all the time. They're not on their phone. They're focused on, you know, building a relationship and building that influential, you know, influencing their child as much as they can when they're not in. So this though, oh my goodness, guys, like that was one thing. So I could tell by the person that she was fighting, also all the other children that was egging it on and things like that, that they were just like influencing each other, like whether they were acting like that and cursing like that because they wanted to seem like they were all that or something. But it was just like, wow. Like, and then of course I'm not saying that, you know, wow, why would kids curse? Well, first of all, kids are going to curse. If a parent curses, they're going to curse. If they see cursing on TV, they're going to curse. Like, it is what it is. And a lot of children, especially public school children, being an elementary educator, children curse all the time. Like, but they just know who to curse around. Right? And then some teachers even let children curse around them, which is crazy to me, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so it's like all these different influences made that happen. And unfortunately, because of this fight, or because maybe, I don't know if Jada had any underlying conditions. I don't know if she injured herself, but this ended up in a death. And then at the end of the day, is it worth it? Is it worth it at the end of the day? And for a lot of parents, the reason why we decide to homeschool, because it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk. I keep my kids at my house, or maybe I homeschool my kids is because I don't trust other people. I don't trust other adults. I don't trust other children. And no one's going to treat your child like you are going to treat your child, right? No one's going to have your child's back as much as you are. Okay, if you are a good parent. I'm speaking to all the good parents out there. But yeah, just a sad situation, and it really makes you think, yes, in that case, no, the public school, I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think it's a mixture of public school, the mixture of maybe some parenting upraising, like who parented these children to think that that was cool to egg it on. Who was the parent of the so-called bully, right? Allegedly, the alleged bully. And, poor Jada, like she had to, her parents as well. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But all these different influences, because, some parents, they want you to fight, right? Some parents want you to fight. Some parents want you to walk away. It just depends on so who's to say that, hey, the parent's like, hey, she put your hands on, this bully put your hands on you. You know what to do. You put your hands on them back. You know what I'm saying? And then they end up getting in a fight, and then that could have led to, what happened. So there's so many different things, and we won't really know, like, really the nitty gritty, like what was the cause and everything like that, probably until later on. But it just really is a conversation about, okay, guys, who and what is influence our children? Are our children safe in these public school systems? I think majority of the time, no, that is not the case. And I'm actually even going to get into some data about that. So I was just going over that real quick. So real quick for people in the chat, if you are watching, or you can go ahead if you're watching this, as a after the live is over, in case maybe like on YouTube or TikTok if I decide to post some of these. Go ahead and tell me in the comments, do you feel schools are safer today than when we were kids? Put a 1 if you think it's safer. Put a 2 if you think it's less safe. Put a 3 if you think it's about the same. And I'm going to say this, I feel like it's about the same, because there's nothing, according to the Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. And I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, there's something new under the sun. So I feel like kids were cursing. Kids had lock key. There was lock key kids where, kids were they went to public school, they went home, their parents were still at work, so they had to get a lock and key, just lock the door behind them, and then that's just what it is. They watch themselves, right? So I think kids have always cursed. I think schools have always had issues as far as bullying and stuff. I think back in the day, maybe people were tougher, people fought more. School shootings really wasn't it, but I know that a lot of people were fighting with their fists more so back in the day. But yeah, I just feel like it's probably about the same personally. It's always been an issue. It's always been a problem in public school systems because it is a worldly system. So, so here are some things that, according to research, public schools do well. Okay, so they have a structured environment. They have trained teachers, sports programs, large peer groups. They also provide services like counseling, special education programs, and advanced placement courses. For many families, this structure works very well. Okay, so we're talking, I would say out of 100%, I would say about 30 to 40% of public school students actually do well in that system. And a lot of times because they're probably in a school system that's good. At least good. Not great. We all know the public school system is not great, but a decent one at that, who's actually meeting benchmarks and things like that. And of course, with the mental health issues and stuff like that, they can get counseling. They have all these different programs, like government programs that help out families who are more marginalized, things like that. So yeah, I guess if you're looking for that type of thing, I guess structured school's a little bit better. Now this is where homeschooling often excels public schools. So homeschools have way smaller learning environments. So instead of 25 students per classroom, homeschool often involves 1 to 5 students. Close adult supervision. That means that, if something's going on, if someone's being rude to somebody else, we're quick to probably put them in their place. Like, yo, you're not doing that. A teacher with 25 students, that's not going to happen. Like, some stuff they have to kind of just fly over the radar to get them from teaching. Or they might have to create an environment that allows everybody else to be comfortable and safe within the environment. But sometimes, depending on what type of students you have, that could be easier said than done. So, yes, you can definitely have a safer environment, obviously, in a homeschool space. You have the parent or another co-teacher, like from another homeschool, coming in and teaching students, and they do have close supervision. Number 2, bullying reduction. So research shows many families choose homeschooling after bullying experiences. A smaller environment often reduces peer pressure, physical conflicts, and social intimidation. Okay, so bullying can happen for so many reasons. And I used to always kind of tell my students, like, guys, there's a difference between bullying and just being rude. Okay, bullying is mean you're targeting someone constantly over a long period of time, and you're really trying to just make their life miserable, right? Over a long period of time. Now, 1 or 2 instances of someone just being rude, that's not bullying. Okay, so I always have to tell them, hey guys, just because they're being rude to you today, maybe because they woke up on the wrong side of the bed or kissing be, that does not mean they're bullying you. Okay, this has to happen over a long period of time. Okay, for it to be considered bullying, right? So, and it's oftentimes it's not just, it could be one-on-one, or it could be like a group of people picking on one person over a long period of time. So I would say bullying to me would be like over 3 weeks of just constant like being rude to somebody. You know what I'm saying? 2 weeks is more, it could go both ways too. Now, a bully also has power over another person. So if y'all about the same, like if you're just as rude as the other person and y'all kind of like matching each other's energy, that's not bullying. Now, the other person has to feel more vulnerable, and like it's a little different when it comes to the bullying word per se, and the meaning of the word when it comes to the school system and just schooling in general. All right. Also, one thing that gives homeschool a leg up is academic outcomes. Studies from National Home Education Research Institute show homeschool students often score 15 to 30 percentile points higher on standardized tests on average. Okay. Also, emotional development. So they just do well. And guys, this statistic was very interesting to me as well, because guess what? Even parents who were a different demographic, say for example, they were at poverty level or they weren't educated, or case may be, so according to the society standards, their children still did better than those that went to public school also. So this is just crazy in itself. Like, you don't have to be so-called certified teacher to teach your children. I tell people all that all the time. Like, check out my YouTube channel where I actually walk you guys through the real homeschool process that includes the research of science in order to, you know, help your child excel at home. It's all in my YouTube channel. I kind of go deep dive, but catch me on TikTok or where it may be if, you know, I'm able to get over there. But anyway, but yes, that was just an amazing statistic. 15 to 30 percentile points higher on a standardized test on average. Also, the emotional development. So homeschool environments often provide stronger parent-child bonds, mixed age socialization. So mixed age socialization is actually better for a child than just being around people in their peer group, which often happens in public school. So public school often has the everybody's always in the same grade. They're always in the same level. But homeschool students, they actually get to talk to other adults. They actually get to talk to kids in high school. Like a high school, it's not uncommon to see a high schooler hanging out with an elementary school student, an elementary school student hanging out with a preschool student, and the middle school student is watching a little baby somewhere. Like, you know, there's just, you know, it's much more it's much more relatable to real life, because in real life, you don't just hang out with people in your peer group. You hang out with people of all walks of life, all ages, etc. And that happens in the homeschool co-ops and communities and things like that. All right. Also, there's a lot of mentorship opportunities as well. You know, and you're able to seek out those resources because you have the time to do so. School on average only takes the average homeschool family about 2 hours, right? On average. So you got a lot of time on your hands. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the socialization myth real quick. As everybody knows, that's been a big topic on TikTok, but people always say homeschool kids aren't socialized, but homeschool students often interact through co-ops, church groups, sports leagues, volunteer programs, internships, etc. Their own family. Okay? They socialize a lot. Socialization still happens, just in different environments. So no. And then another thing is, I love how people were like, oh, homeschool children, they don't get socialized. But in public school, they don't know how to socialize either. Because guess what? They're still being rude to each other. As a teacher, when I tried to put certain people in groups, they always had an issue. They always had a problem. They had a problem with doing, what's it called? Problem resolution type things and how to be empathetic to one another. So yeah, just because they're in a group with each other, especially with technology nowadays, and because we are raising iPad kids, yeah, it's the socialization thing is just the cues is going down the drain, honestly, over time. So just because you're in a public school doesn't mean you're going to be so super social, and just because you're in homeschool does not mean that you're going to be antisocial. Those things are not. It just depends on the person. It depends on how the school environment is addressing socialization. Are they sitting in their chairs all day? Are they able to talk sometimes to their peers outside of doing instruction and academics? That all matters. So yeah, socialization is definitely not a big factor what people make it to be in homeschool. And I'm like, if that's the best thing that you can really come up with on why not to homeschool, yeah, you might as well homeschool. You know what I'm saying? Like, all right, so let's go ahead and go to famous homeschoolers real quick. Here's just a few names in history and so forth that were actually homeschooled. So we have Thomas Edison was homeschooled after struggling in school. We have Abraham Lincoln. He was largely self-educated. Serena Williams was homeschooled while she trained in her tennis. And Simone Biles homeschooled during elite training as well. So homeschool is becoming more and more prevalent today. The numbers we're talking about in the millions. Way more people are being homeschooled, especially post-pandemic. All of a sudden, a light bulb went on in a lot of parents' minds and hearts and so forth. And just all of a sudden, there was just a huge wave of homeschoolers. And guys, it's still growing every single day. It's not too late. And yes, it is a sacrifice. But guys, I think our children are worth the sacrifice. All right. Schools are not getting better. They're not going to change. It's always going to be a broken system. But one thing that's not going to be broken is your household. You know what I'm saying? You are the driver in your child's success when it comes to academics, when it comes to their spiritual life. Like, I really want my children to know Christ for themselves and to raise disciples. So with that, and also just having manners, knowing how to think outside the box, outside of academics. So financial literacy is a big thing in my household. Also, I'm getting into low-key like gardening and homesteading and how to grow your own food and all these other different things that they're often not shown in the public school system because there's just not enough time and they have other agendas for the kids to do, like tests and things like that. But homeschool, you can make it what you want it. So I always geared toward that. Even as a licensed educator, I was just like, no, they're not. I don't trust these teachers. I don't trust these parents, these students. And especially with today's climate becoming more and more violent and more unpredictable and stuff, it's just, I just feel like homeschool is just the best option. All right. So parents, here's the real question. Is homeschool better than public school? So here's the real question parents should ask. Not, is homeschool better than public school? But what environment helps my child thrive academically, emotionally, and safely? Because every child is different. Now, there are going to be some children out there who are just, no matter what's going on, they know how to take on bullies. They know how to take on all these little outside things that are coming at them. And they might do well in public school. You just know what kind of child you have, right? But a lot of students and stuff, a lot of children would thrive better in a homeschool environment, though, if we really are real about it. Think about it. You're still learning how the world works in general, right? And a child is very vulnerable, especially with different ideas and things like that. They're very much easily influenced. So why not be the most influential person in your child's life? You know what I'm saying? Like, why not? You birthed them, you gave life to them, you know what I'm saying? Whatever case may be, why wouldn't you want to do that? And they're just so fragile. They just don't, they might understand how to deal with the situation. They might not. And then when they come home, do you have a good enough line of communication that if something was to go wrong, that they would actually come to you and tell you? Because a lot of times people are bullied and stuff like that. The reason why these stats aren't as high as they should be is because most children do not talk about what happens to them at school or what's going on with them. They don't. And parents are like, if you ever want to talk about anything, let me know. But then something crazy happens and they're just like, I'm not telling my parents that. I don't want to be called a snitch, or I don't want to be, they have all sorts of different ideas in their head from other people and so forth. So, yeah, just ask yourself, what environment helps my child thrive academically, emotionally, and safely? Okay, where I live at, they just had another threat, like another an alive threat, basically, at the high school, and that happens, guys. It happens like every quarter. It's crazy. So it's just like you just never know. At the end of the day, I mean, we're not walking in fear or anything, but it's just like, just be smarter, just move some stuff around, figure it out. But anyway, if you evaluate, trust me, you'll find a way. You'll find a way to get it done. If you really want to homeschool, and there's so many great resources out there where you can do online public school, you can do a hybrid, you can do Montessori, you can do all sorts of different types of homeschooling. Okay, if you really want that support from other professionals, or if you want to go it solo. Like I said earlier, I do have a lot of, if you go to my YT channel, YouTube, go to Miss Asia Educates on YouTube, and I go through a lot of this stuff from beginning to end for any person who is already homeschooling. Like maybe you've been in this game for a while, but you want to get a little bit better at helping your child succeed academically and just really hone in on skills. Or if you're new and you just want to start fresh, I have a new Homeschool Success Framework playlist. Go ahead and check that out. I also have a freebie that will be coming out, my next a homeschool freebie checklist guide that will be coming out next week as well. So go ahead and keep a lookout for that. If you follow the YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to get to it. And I'll also probably post it as well on my PayHip email as well. That's tagged to my name. All right, so let's go ahead and close out. So tonight isn't about fear. It's about parents being informed. And tragedies like the one involving Jada West remind us how important it is to talk about the environments our children spend their days in. If you enjoy conversations like this, please follow me. I'm Miss Asia, also known as Miss Asia Educates, and I love helping parents think deeply about education. All right, I'll see you guys the next time. Ciao, ciao.